Welcome back to CIA Declassified. We're stepping out of the shadows of human mind control and into the kennel of the future. We're talking about the time the agency decided that the only thing missing from their arsenal was a German Shepherd with the motherboard. Welcome to the Electric Dog session. It's 1967. The CIA's Office of Research and Development, the ORD, was looking at the battlefield and seeing a problem. Dogs are great at sniffing out bombs and tracking enemies, but they have a human problem. They get tired, they get scared, and they don't always take directions over a radio. So, the agency asked a very mad scientist question: can we wire a dog to a joystick? This wasn't just a high-tech leash. The Electric Dog project involved serious medical procedures. The goal was twofold: remote direction control and biomechanical enhancement. The agency experimented with brain-computer interfaces long before it was a buzzword in Silicon Valley. They implanted electrodes into the brains of test dogs, specifically targeting the motor cortex in the regions responsible for reward. By sending small electrical pulses, a handler could nudge the dog to turn left, turn right, or stop dead in its tracks. In a 1967 session, researchers documented the use of external biomechanical bracing. These were early versions of exoskeletons designed to help a dog carry heavier surveillance equipment or move faster over rough terrain without fatigue. They were trying to build a dog that could run for miles with a 50-pound radio on its back. A quote from an ORD internal report: the subject responded to directional stimulation with 80% accuracy in a controlled environment. The integration of the prosthetic limb support showed no significant gait impairment, though the power supply remains a prohibitive weight factor. End quote. The CIA also looked into sensory augmentation. They wanted to feed the dog's olfactory data, its sense of smell, directly into a transmitter, so a handler miles away could smell what the dog was smelling. It was the ultimate biological sensor. The electric dog research was actually part of a larger umbrella of projects under the CIA's Office of Research and Development, known as bioelectronics. This department was tasked with bridging the gap between living tissue and electronic hardware, effectively treating animals as platforms for sophisticated sensors that no machine could replicate at the time. The scientists utilized a technique called behavioral shaping via electrical stimulation of the brain, or ESB. By stimulating the pleasure centers of the dog's brain as a reward for following a remote command, they essentially created a digital version of Pavlov's bell, replacing a physical treat with a direct surge of dopamine. Dr. Stephen Aldrich, a key CIA medical officer during this era, noted in a declassified summary, quote, "The feasibility of remote control of the dog is no longer a matter of conjecture. We have demonstrated that the animal can be steered with a high degree of precision using simple radio link to implanted electrodes," end quote. To solve the battery life problem, the CIA looked into biofuel cells. These were experimental devices meant to harness the dog's own blood glucose to generate electricity for the implants. While they never quite perfected the glucose-powered dog, the research pushed the boundaries of what was considered medically possible in 1968. The project didn't just use German Shepherds. Records indicate they tested various breeds to see which had the most electronically compliant temperament. Interestingly, they found that while some hunting breeds had better endurance, the sheer intelligence and focus of the shepherd made it the preferred candidate for neural link testing. As always, the deepest secrets are hidden behind the CIA's favorite tool, the black marker. When you look at the electric dog files, the medical outcomes section is almost entirely blacked out. The heaviest redactions surround the long-term biocompatibility test. Speculation by researchers suggests these pages detail the horrific failure rate of the brain implants. The theory is that the dogs suffered from massive infections or neural cascades that caused them to go rabid or die in agony. The agency isn't hiding the tech, they're hiding the graveyard. There is a persistent conspiracy theory that the redactions cover the weaponization phase. While the official logs talk about direction and carrying equipment, speculation suggests the CIA tested a triggered aggression chip. The idea was to create a dog that could be remotely activated to attack a specific target and then shut off just as quickly. Some believe the missing pages describe the human interface experiments. The theory is that the CIA didn't just want to control dogs, they were using the dogs as testing ground for cybernetic implants that they eventually planned to use on human operatives. If you can steer a dog, you can steer a man. Another area of speculation involves Project Giant. There are whispers that the redacted files mention the use of these cybernetic systems on much larger animals, bears or even large cats, for use in rugged environments like the Soviet wilderness. Conspiracy theorists often point to the redacted budget lines. The speculation is that the money didn't stop in 1970 but was moved into a black budget program that continues to this day, potentially utilizing modern nanotechnology to create invisibly controlled animals. Finally, there is speculation that a cybernetic canine was actually deployed on a mission in East Berlin and failed spectacularly. The theory goes that the dog's internal radio interfered with local power lines, causing the animal to collapse in the street, leading to a frantic CIA cleanup operation to prevent the technology from falling into KGB hands. There's a fringe conspiracy theory that the electric dog was just a cover for Acoustic Kitty's successor, a project where they supposedly tried to turn dogs into mobile Wi-Fi hubs for deep cover agents. The speculation is that the redactions hide the fact that the dogs' bodies were being used as literal antennas to relay signals through the Iron Curtain. Some researchers speculate that the electric dog sessions were actually part of a joint venture with the U.S. Army's Psychological Operations Unit. The theory is that a bionic bark could be projected via high-powered speakers mounted on the cybernetic harness to create the illusion of a massive unseen pack of hounds to terrify enemy insurgents. So was Sparky the Superdog a success? In the short term, no. The technology of the 1960s was too bulky. The batteries were heavy, the wires were fragile, and the dogs were, well, dogs. They often ignored the electrical pulses if they saw a particularly interesting squirrel. A quote from an ORD evaluation: "While the technical feasibility of remote neural steering is proven, the biological reliability of the canine platform is insufficient for high-stakes field operations at this time." End quote. The project was officially shuttered in the early 70s, but not before they successfully proved the remote direction was possible. They had created the world's first living, breathing drone. The success of the project was ultimately found in the development of deep brain stimulation, or DBS. While it didn't create a robot dog, the medical data gathered by the CIA was eventually declassified and contributed to the development of treatments for Parkinson's disease in humans. A quote from Dr. Robert Heath, a controversial psychiatrist who consulted on agency projects: "If you can find the highway to the motor center, you can drive the car. We found the highway, we just didn't have the right fuel to keep the car running." End quote. Even though we don't have bionic dogs patrolling the streets, as far as we know, wink wink, the electric dog sessions led to massive breakthroughs, such as neural mapping. The CIA's research into dog brains helped refine the motor mapping used in modern prosthetic research for humans. Miniaturized biotelemetry. They developed the first transmitters small enough to be worn by a living creature without impeding movement, the great-grandfather of the Fitbit. And bioresistant wiring. The surgeons developed new types of surgical-grade plastics and metals that the body wouldn't reject, a technology now used in pacemakers. The electric dog session is a reminder that the CIA's curiosity knows no bounds and respects no species. They wanted to get a better hound, and they were willing to turn man's best friend into a science project to get it. Thanks for listening. Join us next time, as we're going to be leaving the Earth behind when we examine Project Horizon. In the late 1950s, the Army had a plan, and the CIA had to review it. The plan to build a permanent nuclear-powered military base on the moon. We'll look at the declassified blueprints, the cost of lunar landings, and the CIA's cold, hard assessment of the first Star Wars. Join us for the high ground. In the meantime, I'll see you in the archives.